Okay, hey, it's Stephanie Evelo here with the Evelo team at Keller Realty, and I'm so excited to have with us again our senior realtor partner, Bob Warner, and who's going into his 10th year with us with the team, and who is our research specialist on the team. So we not only a realtor specialist, but he's our research king. So Bob, let's start us out. Today we're going to review what happened in the local market in 2022. So what can you start? What happened in the housing market here in 2022?
Yeah, so we'll just get right at it. So we decided this is the numbers ending in December. So we're just kind of going to take a look at how things went overall in 2022, the ups and the downs and everything in between. So first up is that median sales price for our central Indiana market. That ended the year at 275, which was up still 12.2% year over year. So you can see that spike started kind of in 2019 and it's been on a good steady upward trend since then. We'll kind of see we'll see what 2023 brings, but we should still see some growth, but probably not to the tune of 12.2%.
Well, and just a little tidbit back initially in my initial days, we weren't even seeing like 3 to 4. I mean, we were happy if we ever hit 5% growth in 1 year. So, I mean, 12 is like phenomenal, right?
Yep.
For Indianapolis, for Midwest. So super.
Next up is that cumulative days on market. So median being 6 is where we ended up for 2022. That was up 20% year over year. You can see it was relatively flat. But if we go back, looking at, to 2018, you'll see that was on a steady decline. We kind of are on an upward trend. If we were to look at this kind of more month over month instead of year over year, we'd see some more dramatic differences there. And we'll obviously catch that on next month's presentation. The next one is the absorption rate. This is one that we can't do by year. This is kind of the month supply of inventory, so we can only look at that on a month by month basis, but we do have the year over year number and the month over month. So December, we ended it with a 1.5 month supply of inventory, which was down a little bit from last month, but probably the biggest change right here. That's up 147% from last year. So at this time last year, ending December 2021, we had a 0.6 month supply of inventory. We were up to 1.5 this December. And then the last one under this section is kind of that percent of list price received. So for really most all of 2020 and 2021, we were above 100%. Approaching 105, 106% at some points in time. We ended the year right at basically 100%, 100.1 to be precise, which was down just ever so slightly from last year at 100.5%. And again, if we were to look at the numbers just for this month, we're starting to see that tick under 100% right now, and we'll just see how that trend may continue forward in 2023.
Yeah, and I think that I think the message there though too is for sellers, things are selling at 100%, but it's all relative, right? Like it's all relative because if you overprice your home, even in this market, it will not sell at 100%, right? So the home is always worth whatever a buyer is willing to pay, right? So it's all relative.
And we've got some slides coming up that'll kind of show the reality of that as well.
Yeah. So, so what are some specific metrics that you've been following to track the shifting market?
Yeah, so a few months back, we started taking a look at some different numbers as well, and those couple of 3 are up next. And this first one is active inventory. So for the year, we ended with 19,400 homes, which was nearly a 25% jump over last year. So that is in line with that absorption rate, right? So that month supply of inventory we saw increase pretty rapidly. This is obviously that means inventory sitting a little bit longer. Along with that, probably the biggest spike we see on the downward side is this is closed sales. So for 2022, our region had 38,267 homes sold, which was down just a tick under 10% from last year when we had 42,459. So you can see that's a pretty dramatic drop just from last year to this year, pretty precipitous. We'll see how that continues. And that last one, which is kind of what I alluded to, right? Pricing it correctly. You asked the question, I said we had one coming up. That's the number of price changes. We've really been seeing those increase. And
Yeah.
that is predominantly a result of the changing market overall, right? So last year we had just 14,000 price changes overall. And in 2022, we had almost 21,000, which was nearly a 50% increase in the number of price changes that listings had over the prior year. And the reality is, if we were to dig into this a little bit further, the majority of those price changes, probably price reductions, came in Q4 most likely. And so we're starting to see the number of those continue to increase until we get to the new norm.
Yeah, and I think it's important. Yeah, if people want to follow this, it'll be very interesting in the next 30 and 60 days, I think, to see what's even happened in here in January. Yeah, just what trend we're seeing. So I think we're seeing more and more price changes coming up.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so what about interest rates? I know that's like the number one question that everybody seems to be focused on and asking.
Yeah, always a hot topic. So again, there's lots of variables in interest rates. So we just kind of take a look at the Freddie Mac weekly survey. And so for the week ending last week, we were at a 6.15% rate. That is down a little bit from the highest point we've been in 2022, but still up about 2.6 from this time last year. So historically, as we've talked about before, it still is a very favorable rate. It's just that is the largest rate increase we've seen in a single 12-month piece of time in history. And so it was just a little bit more dramatic, even though the rate overall is still pretty favorable. When you started the year at 3% and ended the year at 6%, that's a pretty huge jump in that 12-month period.
And that's where I would think, yes, then as a buyer, I would be jumping in and trying to get locked in, to purchase before, again, if the rates even continue to go up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just trying to be careful about that as a buyer. So any final thoughts about the state of the market?
Yeah, so we always try to end with something. This one's not necessarily specific to market related, but I think the new year often brings New Year's resolutions or New Year's goals, right? Whatever the case may be. And a lot of those times that may involve buying a home. So just real quick, 4 easy, handy tips to remember that if you have a goal to buy a home in 2023, first, of course, would love to help, right? But maybe 4 things to really get started on is working on your credit, planning for your down payment, obviously working on getting pre-approved, and then really sitting down and creating a list and prioritizing your wants and needs, right? Those are often the things that don't necessarily all align. We want to check as many boxes as we can on that wants and needs list, but operating obviously within the budget and the other parameters that you may have. And of course, working on your credit and getting pre-approved kind of go hand in hand. But sometimes a few subtle changes to your credit score can have a pretty significant impact on your interest rate. And
Right.
Certainly some of the lender partners we work with are there to help you through that. But those are just 4 tips for those that might be thinking about buying in 2023 to get yourself set up for success and be on the right track as we're here in Q1.
Yeah, and I know we just had our recent first-time homebuyer seminar, and yes, lots of that final graphic were all the questions that were being asked. So yeah, and we do have another one coming up here soon virtually. So if anybody has interest, obviously they can reach out and find out more information about that. And if they have any questions about any of that on the graphics, obviously they can reach out to us here on the team or our mortgage experts. So, well, anything else that you want to share, Bob?
That's it. I think that's a good wrap. 2022 is done. We'll be back next month to see how 2023 has started, and then we'll just kind of see what the year brings real estate wise.
Absolutely. It was a great year. 2022 was a year to remember by all, personally and professionally. And so we just want to thank so much for everybody for joining us. And if you have a real estate need that we can assist with, let's connect. You can contact us at info@eveloteam.com, or of course, phone number 317-863-9011. And that'll all be here in the post as well. But thank you so much for joining us. And we are on here each month. So if you want to follow along and you want to be updated on the market trends and industry and what's happening here in the local Indianapolis market, just stay with us each month and follow our Facebook page. Thanks so much. And remember, as always, make each moment count. Bye-bye.
Bye.